Well, welcome back. Shot the first video before service. This is after service. We're running the Visit California menu right now. You guys will see the wines from that coming up fairly soon. But it was kind of nice because Kevin Luther's here. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
Winemaker at Lucid Wines on R10th, and actually the pick pool maker for the first course of Sacramento Salad. Had to have a Sacramento wine, so fun to have him here. And you guys will be experiencing his wines. If you've never had them before, then Localis Wine Club is all about getting a pick pool in your hands. And I'm not going to say a word. I'll tell you the pairing afterwards. But Kevin, if you could walk us through your wine, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris will be able to speak more on the sommelier style comments on Pic Pool Blanc in detail. But from south of France, generally known as being fairly crisp in style and can be sometimes extremely simple, like you see in a lot of like boxed wines and stuff. To make this more complex, I just mess with it in fun ways. I did a little bit of barrel aging in neutral French oak, left on the lees a lot, left this one a little more like indigenous fermentation, minimal intervention, just kind of let it go a little bit wild, nudged it along with what I call my yeast bay. Almost all of my wines get it. It's just, I mix about 20 different kinds of yeast to actually recreate enhanced microbial diversity that you would see in wild ferments if wild ferments actually happen in wineries instead of being dominated by the house yeast, which is what happens actually. So I make it more wild than wild by doing a highly complex, very small rate inoculation that actually increases the funk, but also cleanliness of the wine. And then that barrel aging gives it like a little bit of nettiness and creaminess on some lees as well, and then finish it off in stainless steel and bottle it up.
That's way more than I would give you. I think you guys know that by now with these videos, but nonetheless, it's a great wine. It's very fun. It's interesting. I love the idea that people have never had Pic Pool Blanc. You have probably never had Pic Pool Blanc. So it's nice when you have a good representation of something fun. We pair this with the Sacramento Salad. It has a lot of different elements, but really the main hitters on the pairing are a marigold vinaigrette, which you can make at home very easily. Just pick marigold flowers, they're literally everywhere. Blend it down traditional way with a little bit of more neutral vinegar, like a champagne vinegar, white wine vinegar, and some Dijon and some salt. And then just slowly incorporate oil into it, and you make a nice like floral vinaigrette that has beautiful color. The marigolds are, you know, oranges and reds, but I love that pairing specifically with this wine. That's like the best part. The vegetables are all good with it too. The sweetness of the Nantes carrot puree is like really good with, you know, setting off this wine. But I love the marigold. It's a really fun pairing.
From the moment you were saying marigold in that salad, thinking back to having the pairing tonight in this menu, that floral plus bitterness component that I think this wine has a little bit of that same bitterness and then plays off that. Like totally. That's a wonderful match on these.
Rad. Well, I'm going to power through the rest of these. I'm going to give Kevin the opportunity to hold me if he feels like I have disparaged a wine or a pairing. He'll keep me in check. That's what we do. But next up is Swiss wine. Probably have not had Swiss wine either. They don't export a lot of their wine, so you don't see it as often. There's some native varietals up there. Chasselas is probably the best known one. This is Fondant, and it's from Z Selection. Really small maker we get from our same Frenchy guys, Pierre Close and G Monteau. Fun wine. We've had it on the tasting before, but I had never put it on here before. Part of the problem is like Swiss wines tend to be expensive, and expensive not like in hundreds of dollars, but expensive for what it is, right? Like it's a good white wine. I really enjoy drinking them, but it's not really something that a lot of people are like dying to get. And at $30 to $40 for like retail is like an expensive wine for just like an everyday drinking white wine. But nonetheless, fun to bring it in, fun to have Swiss wine on the docket, on the nose. You know, a little bit more like green mentholy than the last wine, the Pic Pool, but actually kind of similar on the nose to me, like a little bit. Like it's got some of those kind of funky, slatey kind of characteristics that I find in the other one.
Some of the same mineral nuttiness, but this one definitely has more of that herbal pop.
Yeah,
for sure. On the palate. Yeah.
So acidity's really nice, light on the palate.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of flavor, but it doesn't like saturate your entire palate. It's kind of like light in a good way. I really love the green grassy kind of notes that it has. Kind of like Sauvignon Blanc, obviously not near as like abrupt, but really fun. I think this is another great food wine, much like the Picpoul Blanc. I think they're in the same category, kind of in their power, in their structure. I mean, they're similar.
I can see this going with a salad too, but maybe something with more like citrus pop or more diverse like Southeast Asian ingredients to give it like a brightness or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think more along the lines of like more green notes.
Yeah,
I'd probably do.
grassiness.
Yeah, I'd probably do some sort of heavy green note, like instead of a marigold vinaigrette, do an herb vinaigrette, different summer herbs, basils, and you know, fresh chives, and a couple like those kind of flavors. I think would be really good. I think with the acidity the way that it is, it might not love spice, so it might not want anything with spice in it. But fun wine. I hope you guys dig it. Let us know if you've ever had fondant. And I hope I'm saying that right. My goodness, some of these times. Fendant, so it feels right. 2019, and 100% too. So you're tasting the true varietal, which is always kind of nice. I love blends as well, but when you can taste a single grape, it really kind of shows you what it is.
Especially if you don't want to make like a 90% fondant. Like you go all the way. Like that's really cool to see it in its full. That's a really interesting.
See, that's a winemaker thing to say. You just don't know. You don't go 90% fondant. You got to go 100%. You know, it's winemakers. Next wine is something that I'm very excited to share with you guys. This is another one of those times where we kind of broke the bank a little bit to serve you guys something really special, because Pouilly-Fuissé is in the southern part of Burgundy. They've had great vineyards and great wines made there for a long time. Some of the big makers like Lefebvre has a really well-known Pouilly-Fuissé. But I think year before last was their first opportunity at having Premier Cru, so they were designated some Premier Cru vineyards. And for a lot of these growers that have been making Chardonnay in the bottom part of Burgundy forever, they really haven't had that ability to put their bottle like, hey, this is Premier Cru, you know? And so nice that this is another Pierre Clos. We do a lot with him. This is their Du Martelet. Pretty beautiful. Domaine La Soradi Fils. I don't know that much about the producer. Like I said, he's a pretty small producer, and really I just kind of fell in love with the wine, which is kind of my style of, I'm not a great somm. When you were like, oh, he's a great somm, I'll tell you all this. I'm really not. I just really love wine. So tasting it and getting to know wines based on what you love, I think is fun. But I'm pretty excited about this. I think it way over delivers. As you know, Burgundy is getting insanely expensive. I mean, even just village levels from Pouligny-Montrachet and Chassagne-Montrachet are going to be very expensive. It's $70, $80, you know, like, and cost for us wholesale, you know, so it's going to be very expensive. So you get a little bit of Premier Cru from a great producer. Super fruity, huh, for Chardonnay? Like, very, very tart green apple.
Yeah, I was going to say tart green apple, Meyer lemon, kind of like
not
bright but fruity.
Not sweet and oaky like American style Chardonnays tend to be. There's some great ones, obviously, but
and the palate really matches the aromatics too. Right down the same. It's almost underripe pear on some level too. Like my uncle had a pear orchard that I visited up in Oregon.
Yeah,
and this is the smell of like the orchards.
I love the mouthfeel of this wine. Silky and smooth. I mean, it just coats your palate with bright acidity and wonderful fruit, like bright acidic fruit. Really fun Chardonnay. It's very round, isn't it? Like it's very smooth.
Well, for having as much acidity and bright, you know, we were describing kind of sour and underripe fruits, it also has a mouth-filling texture that's just very mouth-watering and luscious.
So, wonderful wine, and obviously Chardonnay, and I say obviously like kind of a jerky way, but any white wine from Burgundy is going to be Chardonnay with a couple things. I mean, there's Aligoté, which is kind of like that varietal that should be planted more often there, but isn't because Chardonnay sells so well. But for the most part, you're going to see Chardonnay if it's a white Burgundy, if someone was talking about that. I think with mushroom season happening right now, I would sweat down some onions and wild mushrooms, deglaze with a little bit of cream, reduce by a little bit of lemon and salt in a blender, puree it into a nice sauce, pan roast a piece of fish, preferably something kind of fatty. But even still, even if it was halibut cooked well, and then just dump that sauce over the top of the seared fish, I just love that with this. Like something really earthy and rich that'll just kind of help coat your palate as well, so you'll get long finishing flavor profiles together. And then fish just seem, you know, it's lemon, it's all those things, like it just makes sense.
So you've got all the fresh elements, but then you're kind of layering into this earthy element off of.
Yeah, because there's no earthy element in this.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really not. It's very fruit forward, it's very beautiful. It's hard sometimes nowadays to know old world wines and new world wines, because you used to always be able to just instantly go like, oh yeah, that's definitely old world.
Well, old world now makes fresh. I mean,
yeah,
Burgundy has always made fresh wines, but a lot of Europe and old world just wasn't fresh, and now you see more and more that fresh style mixed with the same earthy, funky terroir-driven characteristics that maybe kind of were like during some of their slump years.
For sure. Delicious wine.
Great wine.
Next up, one of my favorite wines from the previous couple of menus. This is another Pfalz region German wine, Spätburgunder Trocken, or Pinot Noir Dry. This is 2020, unfiltered, really good growing practices. This is a cuvee called Carlsbad, and 2020 vintage, so very new. It's not an aged wine. This is more of like a couple of years in the bottle, let it settle down, drink, and it's singing. I think this compares to some really great Pinots that I've had at much higher price points. But I think this is absolutely stunning. We're going to have this at our little bottle shop, which will be happening this Saturday from 12 to 3. And obviously, maybe we'll get Kevin down here with some of his cool wines, and then we can do that as well. But German Pinot Noir, to me, kind of like, if you're going to try to look at things like silver linings to global warming, would be some of these areas that couldn't really grow certain varietals at the beginning can now grow those varietals because it's warmer and they can ripen Pinot Noir, you know?
You know, I knew Germany made Pinot Noir and always found it hilarious that it was called Spätburgunder.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just...
That's their language.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, the Burgunder, that even references the region from which it's from. Anyway, but this... I've had one or two and never been impressed. I haven't even tasted it. The smell of this
Isn't it crazy?
This is crazy. This is so aromatic of a Pinot.
So it is bursting with red fruit, ripe characteristics of red fruit, and at the same time has these very peppery notes, like pink peppercorn, Szechuan peppercorn, like some very strange peppercorn kind of vibes going on. And then huge amounts of like the eucalyptus, mentholy kind of like green, but not just green. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can smell this wine all day long and never get sick of it. It's such a fun wine.
And it's got like some of the funk, but also like on the cleaner side of like what you'll sometimes see in Belgian beers and really earthy French wines that have that like, there's like an earthy characteristic mixed with this like bright cherry that's just popping right through, along with those herbal notes.
Super fun wine. I love this. I hope you guys like it. Please leave some comments on what you think of the German Pinot. I think most people are very impressed by these. It's still cold there, right? So even though they're able to ripen it fully, it's very cold. So the nights are, you're getting that really great diurnal shift. So it's like nice and warm during the day, and they're growing really well. And then they shut down at night, nice and cold. I think this is lights out delicious. I love this with pork. Funny, German and pork. But I would say that I'd like to braise probably something going on. In fact, we're actually doing kiwi braised chile verde right now. So we take tomatillos out of the recipe and add kiwis in. They're very similar in profiles. But it's similar to your traditional style with a little more tang, a little more kick. Yeah. And I think that this would be so good with that, like rich, fatty, little bit of spice, because I actually think this could take some spice.
Well, and I think it'll play with the spice nicely because it has the fruit of cherry, but then it has the sourness of sour cherry and almost a cranberry element that plays off that sweet sour of the kiwi. Yeah. That I like that.
And 12.5 alcohol. So low, which is great. That's really going to let the wine speak and the fruit come out, which is what you need if you're trying to pair with something spicy. So I would do a chile verde. I think most of you probably could put together something like that at home. Even if it's a traditional one, I just think that would be really good with it. I think El Pastor would go really good with it. I think you could get away with like some cilantro rice and beans and just do a traditional style Mexican, should say specific kind of Mexican, but El Pastor being kind of central. I think, yeah, I mean, we look at that in the future for Pinot Noirs from Germany that are nice and lush like this one, and some spicy foods, because I think it would go well.
I feel like this could even go with like a shrimp in something with like a chili and lime kind of flavor.
Oh, for sure,
it's
yeah.
playing off that like spice, but also the seafood elements. It's
Yeah.
light enough to play with
For
seafood
sure,
as well as ready.
yeah. Wonderful wine. All right, I'm going to have to read a little bit about this because this is a Greek wine, and I was introduced by a really sweet man named Ari, who's in town. I think Zanikis is his last name, and he's got an import business and finds some really neat Greek. He's Greek, so he's passionate about it. Hungarian, some Spanish wines, just a fun little book, based right here in Sacramento. But I bought this just for you guys. I thought, like, what a great wine and what an interesting wine to get to all of you so that you could taste this thing. It's a single vineyard wine. The great part about Greece is I think they're massively undervalued. Some of the Greek wines that I've had that are fantastic are really approachable, which I really love. This is Paleokori, I think. Paleokori, I don't think it's Chori. That's the grape varietal. This is from 2019. I fell in love with this wine right away. I didn't have a home for it on the tasting menu, and we don't buy for the cellar anymore because it's, you've seen how packed it is.
He has a lot of wine.
Too much wine. So I bought this for you guys because I was just very excited about it. So very excited to see. You probably have not had too many Greek wines.
No, I'm a winemaker who has tried thousands of wines from around the world and have never even heard of this one.
Yeah, me neither. So there you go. We did a Schiava on the last month, and that's the first time. I mean, I was like, I don't know what the hell Schiava is.
I think you shared that Schiava.
Yeah, it was
really
delicious,
nice
right? Yeah, it was great. So anyways, this wine, on the nose, kind of like, do you get heavy, like, fresh tobacco kind of notes coming from this?
I see what you're saying with the fresh tobacco. It's almost like I've actually been in a field of green tobacco that was growing, and it's very, very herbal. And then versus like a dried, aromatic, like earthy tobacco that tends more towards leather. This is definitely like somewhere between that field tobacco and dried tobacco.
Yeah, I don't know where the fruit would go on this. Sometimes it's hard for me to place like the fruit characteristic. Like, what is the smell?
Like, oh, it's almost like pomegranate, but more the rind
That's a good call.
than the fruit.
Yeah.
And there's a grippy pomegranate-like tan on the finish.
You get maybe a little bit of tamarind as well, like that funky, like acidic kind of brown note. I kind of feel like that's there on the nose.
I see what you're saying on the tamarind. Yeah, it's not a big juicy fruit. It's definitely more of like, yeah, either cured fruit or a rindy fruit. For people who like their big red wines, big tannins, I feel like so many of us who like big dark red wines are just constantly disappointed drinking California wines because they're all dry, they're all slightly sweetened and overly smooth with oak or sugar. And like having a cool wine like this that just gives no fucks and just really is like got full tannins, not trying to be overly fruity. Like, this is the wine you don't see often enough. I love that it's big and bold, but also fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty gripping and pretty fun. This is big food wine. I think lamb is almost necessary here. I think the slight gaminess of lamb would go extremely well with this wine.
I can see that.
And I mean, I think that you kind of do the whole what grows together goes together. I think you do capers, preserved lemon. You could probably do like some sort of grain salad or something like that. You know, braised lamb or grilled lamb. I don't think either or would be the wrong move.
Yeah.
Some sort of green sauce. You know, salsa verde-ish. You know, something like that with it. I think that's just seeing for like some salinity and some richness. I just love this wine. Fun.
When you said the cured citrus, where it's like usually done in salt and fermented and stuff with lamb, like that flavor profile with this, that saltiness, that curedness plus the gaminess of lamb, like, oh yeah.
Really dig this wine. Hope you guys dig it too. Paleokori, I think is how you would say it. That's how I would say it. we'll see. Now, we're going to do something vastly different than we've ever done. I'm pretty sure. This is Camelot Mead. It's a honey wine. Coming from the Midwest, actually, which is kind of crazy. It's an employee-owned company. We bought this for a pairing quite a while ago, and I had it still in my cellar. So I brought it down once again for you guys, because anything that goes on the menus here at Localis is good. We think it's very tasty and interesting. And we don't do very many sweet wines on here, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to do one. And I wouldn't be offended either if you mixed this with something sparkling and threw it over rocks and stuff. Like, I think it's just delicious. You know, it's a fun wine to drink. It is wine. It's honey wine. So I thought we would go after this. It's Oliver. And I said the Midwest, but specifically Bloomington, Indiana. So there you go. Wine from Bloomington area, Indiana. Pretty fun. I'm going to be kind of funny saying here. I would like to say honey on the nose, but I don't know if I smell like honey, really.
But it's like when people are like first learning to describe wine and they're like, it smells like grapes.
Yeah.
Wine. It's like, ultimately, really does smell like honey, but also like lychee.
Yeah.
And
I get kind of olive characteristics too, believe it or not. Like, there's like a brine to it.
It's more olives than olive oil because it's not like grassy, but
I like that it actually has a little bit of grip to it. It's not just like my tongue is actually feeling that I just drank some wine.
Yeah, I think that I had a taste of this earlier, and it's got definitely like a richness to it that it's not, like you say, it's not just honey. Like some meads are hyper sweet and end up just tasting like sweet. This one definitely has levels of complexity. You get fruit, you get honey, you get not a whole lot of fun, but just a little complexity.
So it couldn't be difficult to pair. We did it with an olive oil and honey dish called Land of Milk and Honey. We had a panna cotta in there as well. But it was really funny to tie this into those flavor profiles. Baklava, I think, would be such a fun pairing. Like real honey baked, I think would go extremely well with this. I also think that you could pair this together with like orange curd, something like that. Something with some fat and some richness and also citrus notes. It's fun though. It's really fun. I hope you guys dig this. Like I said, I could totally see this getting mixed with some sparkling Cremant de Bourgogne, which I gave you guys on the last month's pick.
Yeah.
That and that together over ice, and I would be like very happy just sipping on that. Like, it's not sweet.
Over ice? No, it's
sweet,
really
but
not.
it's like my mouth right now, after you finish a wine, after you finish something that's just very sweet, your palate holds onto it for quite some time, and you almost get kind of dry mouth because of it. Yeah. This leaves your mouth kind of like fresh.
Like if you've been watching me while we're talking about it, I just keep going back to it, and I pour myself more, and I keep going back to it. Like most meads, you're gonna have to let sip, and you're like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah. This is good. This is really fun. So some really neat stuff. I'll try to do this in the future too, to pull out some stuff from the cellar that we've had for a while that I fell in love with, you know, however long ago, and kept enough of it to do something like this. And hopefully we see some people at the bottle shop pop up. And hope you guys enjoy the wines. Please leave some comments. Let us know what you think about having Kevin here and him dropping the F-bomb on one of my videos. I mean, wow, seriously, Kevin.
Pretty you know, that's what you
Have
get,
a good night,
you
you
get
guys.
a heavy winemaker in here. Yeah.